I'm Tish from Healthworks. I'm the wellness coordinator, and today's topic is going to be on addressing cholesterol and triglycerides. And I'm a dietitian, so mainly what I work with is talking about food. So what you're going to see on here today are looking at things that affect cholesterol and triglycerides, and a lot of it is food. So I thought, well, hey, let's do a class on that. And really, that I feel like enhanced, I guess, my thinking we need to do a class on this was based on when you all did your lab work. I've looked at that lab work and I have to put it in on a spreadsheet. And I was commonly seeing that people's cholesterol levels were not where the goal is, where we want it to be. So I thought, okay, definitely, we're going to do a class on that. And as I mentioned, predominantly the things that we talk about are foods that make our cholesterol level go up. All right, let me see if I can adjust my, oops, wrong way. There we go. What I asked the other classes is, do you know somebody who has had a heart attack or has heart disease? Pretty much everybody shook their head yes. And some of them were actually, before we got class started, we're talking about somebody here at work that had happened to. And so it is a common, unfortunate disease that happens in America. It's still the number one killer. Heart disease is. Sometimes I think cancer is, because it seems like that gets more attention than heart disease does, but it's not. Heart disease is. So why do you care? Well, as I mentioned, when I was putting in the data for the people that participated in the wellness program, I was seeing that a lot of people's cholesterol levels were above what it should be. For people that participate in the wellness program, 35% of those folks have cholesterols above 200. So you know I'm going to be talking about a class today. We're going to do that. Have y'all heard of a good cholesterol and a bad cholesterol? Yeah? Okay, the bad one, and I'll talk about that in more detail in a second, is LDL. And when I think of LDL, when I see the letter L, I think in my head, that needs to be low. So that one is the bad one. Sometimes I call it the lousy one. There aren't a whole lot of percent of people with their LDL above what it should be. That's 12%. That's good. I'm glad to see that. Now the next one is the good one, the HDL. And so when I see the letter H, I think that one needs to be high. I'm telling you all, I got that confused all the time when I was in school. They keep hammering it in our head. Cholesterol needs to be low, and one's got to be up. What's the difference? So I want to tell you all, if y'all have a question, don't hesitate to ask. Don't think it's going to be a silly question or a dumb question. Not at all. Y'all be relaxed. Y'all ask me questions anytime. If there's something funny, or it's like, what does she have that up there for? You laugh. I don't care. I want y'all to be relaxed and comfortable. Ask me any question. So going back to my story, trying to understand high cholesterol, why does that one have to be high? What that one does there is it picks up the bad one, the LDL, and gets it out of your body. So what I found when I was entering in the data, 31% of the people in the wellness program, their HDL is too low. So I know that probably sounds confusing. One needs to be high and one needs to be low. But if you can kind of keep in mind HDL, the H, it needs to be high. The rest of them need to be low. Okay? Any questions so far? I gotta go through these boring ones first. I'm giving you all the detail about cholesterol and LDL and HDL, and then we'll get to the more interactive stuff, okay? Now, you may look at this one and think, well, why do I care about this one? This one is called triglycerides. Have you all heard of that lab value before, triglycerides? Yes. Well, that one too, it's a fat. Cholesterol is a fat, well, so are triglycerides. And by golly, I'm telling you, when I was putting the data in, 37% of the people in the wellness program, their triglycerides are higher than what they should be. So my husband calls me Safety Sally. And so I was like, I got to talk about this. It is a fat, and I'm going to talk about the foods that affect it. So I did bring this up. It's not part of your wellness program lab, but as a wellness coordinator, I would be silly and I would be inconsiderate if I didn't talk about this too. Okay, let's see what our next slide is. We know the title of it, right? Smoking, cholesterol, fried foods. What does that have to do with our blood work? All right, let's get to the detailed slides, and then we'll get to the interactive part. Cholesterol. Your body makes cholesterol, so if you just totally eliminate cholesterol from your diet, you'd be okay. Your liver makes it. You'll be just fine. You'll be just fine if you didn't get cholesterol from your diet. So think about it. If you're not really watching your diet for cholesterol, you might be getting too much because your body already makes some. Now, what it does in our body is it actually helps our food to break down. It helps to break down food. It helps with cells in our brain and in our nerves. So you do need it in your body. But too much of it, it says on I believe the last point there, we are at risk of having a heart attack or a stroke. Now, again, talking about your blood work, they're going to measure your total cholesterol. And then what they're going to do is break it down even more into that good one and bad one that I talked about a while ago. The bad one is the LDL, and I call it the lousy one, or the one we want to be low. It's the one that does the clogging in the arteries. That one we want to be low. The next one, HDL, that's the good one. You think of H, you think of high. You want that number to be up. Now again, what that HDL does, and I'm going to see if I can put this down and I can explain this. The LDL, let's imagine this is our artery. And what goes through our artery are fluids, but blood. And that goes to our heart. But when we have too much LDL, too much cholesterol as well in our body, it builds up in that artery. So is that blood going to get to the heart where it should be, like it should? It's not, is it? Because all that, I call it gunk, all that LDL and cholesterol is blocking it. What that HDL does, remember that's the one we want it to be high. What that HDL does is it pulls out, it picks up that LDL and gets it out there. That's pretty cool. So that's why you want that one to be high. So when I was in school, I asked the professor, I said, okay, that one's got to be high. It picks up the HDL, it picks up the LDL. So where does it go? I'm thinking it's got to go somewhere else. It's going to start clogging up my legs. Where does it go? He says, no, you excrete it out of your body. And I said, you use the bathroom? And he says, yes, you poop it out of your body. So you probably didn't want to know that detail of it, but me, I'm trying to figure out where else is this stuff going. You get it out of your body. So that number there on your HDL, you want that number to be as high as it can be. One of the best things to get that number up is activity. So like the work that you all are doing, that can help get that up. And I'm going to talk about that in just a little bit, what other things can affect that. Any questions so far? All right, we're going to get to the interactive part. Oh, no, we're not. Sorry. I got one more slide. Triglycerides. It's another kind of fat that's found in your body. Now, it works differently than cholesterol does. What triglycerides do, it's what we find stored all over our body here. Keeps us warm. It protects the organs in our body. But it also gives us energy. And I've explained in the other classes, when you're doing aerobic activity, the work that you all are doing here, James Marine, when you're doing that aerobic activity, the first 20 minutes, you're using carbohydrates. After 20 minutes, then your body starts to burn fat. That right there. So you have to have that. You do need that in your body. I've had some people get on a kick of being on a low-fat diet. Some people have been in extreme and have done a no-fat diet. You got to have it in your body. You're not going to be functioning like you should if you don't. I'm going to show you some pictures on here. And what I want us to do as a group, what I'd like for us to do is to identify, yeah, that's something I could change up. But then I might put a picture up here and you may be like, I can't change that. Let me give you an example. Have you heard that heart disease is more common in females or is it more common in males? Bear? It's in males, that's right. So that's not something you can change. Just like you're going to be more at risk of having a heart attack than I am because you're a man. Family history. Tony, you might have a family history. Let's say your dad and your dad's dad all had heart attacks, say at age 50, which I consider that a young age. But at age 50, they had heart attacks. Well, those genes are passed on to you now. So you too would be like them. You would be at risk because they've had heart attacks in their family. Now it's passed on to you. That's not something you can change. So what I'm going to show up here, show some pictures up here, and you guys will all just kind of think of it as a group. Yeah, that's something we could change up in our life that could help improve cholesterol, triglycerides. And then we'll see some, no, we can't change that. We can't change that to help our cholesterol. Well, I put this first picture up here. These foods definitely up here do raise cholesterol levels. Whole milk, cheese, sausage, any kind of sausage. It could be pork, it could be deer sausage that's really high in cholesterol. What else do I have up here? Bacon, oh, one of my favorites. Butter, I didn't put eggs up here. Eggs are very high in cholesterol. Red meat, all those are really high in cholesterol. So you're probably thinking, so you're telling me I can't eat it? No. If you feel like you eat these a lot or eat too much of them, try to start cutting it back. That will help improve your cholesterol. Okay? All right. Y'all tell me on this next picture, is this something that you could change up in your lifestyle that could help improve not cholesterol, but triglycerides? Yeah. Geez, that's chocolate cake. And I ate too much of that, so I need to cut back on that. Beer. I drink too much of that. This is why I wanted to talk about triglycerides, is because the foods that affect triglycerides are different than the ones that affect cholesterol. And I'll get more detail in a little bit, but alcohol, sweets, sweet drinks, fruits, those make triglycerides go up.
So what you were saying a while ago about the deer meat?
Deer meat is just exactly, good. When they make sausage, they use pretty much all parts of the animal, which includes kind of I don't want to say the wasted parts, but kind of what they would throw away. So there's a lot of fat content in them. So regardless if it's turkey sausage, deer sausage, or pork sausage. But other than that, the deer meat is good. All of it is lean, but the sausage one isn't. And that's good, isn't it? I've had that before. It tastes good. What about this one? What do you think what kind of factor do you think that is? Because I see like some great grandmas up there. Grandma. Bill. A lot of chitlins. That's family history there. Like I was picking on Tony saying, if your dad and his dad died of a heart attack at age 50, that's going to be passed on to him. Those genes, that DNA is going to be passed on to him, so he's going to be at risk of having a heart attack. How about this factor? Maybe like, what in the world is that? That's right, blood sugar. This actually is in relation to triglycerides. I have type 1 diabetes, and if I'm not keeping my blood sugar under good control, it's going to make my triglyceride levels go up. Now, is this something that I can control? You bet. Under doctor's care, but you bet I can get those blood sugar numbers under control. So there's another factor that can be controlled. What do you think that's a picture of? Yeah, pretty looking feet. My feet don't look that pretty, but what's that scale telling that guy to do? Take a run. So activity, is that a controllable factor? You bet it is. And like I told the other classes, oh my goodness, exercise is one of the cheapest, inexpensive medicines you can do. In that, it does lower total cholesterol. It raises that good one, the HDL. It lowers your stress. You may think, it does. It does lower stress, lowers your blood pressure, lowers your blood sugar. It's good. The thing is I'm always too tired to do it. I don't know about you all, but I have to make that a priority in my life to do it. But that too is also a factor that can help improve cholesterol levels. Now, what about this one? What do you think this factor up here? It's not two women up here; it's two men up here. You remember what I talked about? Heart disease. Is heart disease more common in men or women? Men. That's right. So I had to put a funny picture up there. Okay. I thought when I saw it, I was like, "That's hilarious." That's a picture of men because heart disease is more common with them. How about this one? What about this factor? This too is a controllable factor, smoking. It's a hard one because like I told the other classes, I don't smoke. They'd be like saying, you can't have chocolate anymore. So that is a hard factor to try to change, but it is something that can be changed. And I've told all the other classes, when I showed this picture at one of the businesses I presented in, a guy raised his hand and said, if she's 100 years old and she's still smoking, she's okay. She's in good health. She can still do it. So I thought that was funny. What about this one? What do you think that factor is there? And it's actually a factor you can't change. What do you think that factor is?
Getting older.
That's right, getting old. So what happens when we get older? We get more at risk of things, don't we? High blood pressure, cancer, heart disease, diabetes. So there is a factor there that we can't change. But if you think about it, of pretty much all those factors that we presented, majority of them we can make changes to them. And majority of them had to deal with food, didn't they? Okay, so what are we supposed to do? Lock up the refrigerator? No, that's why I'm here, because I'm going to give you all some food ideas. So I thought that was a funny slide there, so I'm going to put that up there. Fiber. Have you heard of fiber helping out with cholesterol? Fiber's pretty good. It even helps you poop better. But anyway, we're not talking about that. We're talking about cholesterol. Fiber can actually help lower cholesterol levels, but I really want to be specific and point out certain foods. Let me see your paper, Tony, the white one. Yes. Thanks. I wanted to point out certain foods that have this particular fiber. It's called soluble fiber. And you can actually, oh, there we go. You can actually see it on the label underneath carbohydrates and fiber. And it'll break down the fiber into soluble and insoluble. So as you see on here, it's the soluble fiber that will help lower cholesterol. And I just did a little math down here. If you ate a cup and a half of oats, a medium apple, you got 10 grams of fiber. That amount every day will lower cholesterol level. It'll lower it by 10 or more points. That's pretty good. I can't tell you how, when I was entering the data in, when you all had your lab work done, and there would be people with a cholesterol of 201, like, oh, or they might have one of 203. All they needed was just like 2 points less or 4 points less, and they would have gotten, was it 75 points for having a cholesterol less than 200. So it is achievable. You can get your cholesterol level down. You definitely can do that. So on your handout on here on page 1 and on the back of page 2, I've got 2 or 3 more slides on there that show you other types of foods that contain cholesterol, that contain soluble fiber in them. This one here, talking about cereals, I don't mean to put down Cheerios because it's one of my favorites, but the frustrating thing about it is that they really tout that they lower cholesterol. Well, if you take a look at the different fiber cereals listed up there, look at the serving size beside it. For example, All Brand, 1/3 cup is going to give you about 1.5 grams of soluble fiber. 1/3 cup, a third of a cup is not much, is it? That's a small portion. Now compare that to Cheerios, 1 3/4 cup is going to give you 1.2 grams of soluble fiber. So you're going to have to eat a boatload of Cheerios for it to help lower your cholesterol level. And again, I'm not saying you can't eat it. You can. But when you're out shopping, and say if you're wanting to look for a cereal that has a lot of soluble fiber in it, that's what I encourage you to look at. Then look at the serving size, because Cheerios, you really got to eat quite a bit of that in order to get some cholesterol lowering benefit. And again, I put oatmeal, and Al's going to get the oatmeal because it definitely does. I don't think its serving size was that big. What did it say? Oatmeal, a half a cup is going to give you 2 grams, and it's already cooked. So if you measure out a fourth of a cup, add the water to it, then it's going to be a half a cup. It doubles in size. So then it'll be a half a cup cooked. Any questions so far? Okay, let me look here, see what I've got on here. Okay, talking about tips to help lower cholesterol. We already talked about activity. That's one of the best things to lower cholesterol. Also help improve your high cholesterol level. Has anybody checked out Energy Fitness yet? They've got some good rates for you all. That would be one way you could get some exercise in. But y'all might want to look into that, okay? If you've completed all the steps in the wellness program, check that out. Eat 3 or more vegetables a day. So here's an example. 1 cup of fresh carrots, throw that in at lunch, and then maybe at supper time, steam up some broccoli. You mean here like broccoli? Yes. Everybody in my last group did. And I gave away my broccoli in there. Okay, James Garnett. It's you. Hi, James.
That's a good one for him. He loves himself.
Does he not like them?
He eats them all the time.
Yeah. Praise the Lord. All right. And he does need them, right? You do need those all the time? Really, he does? Oh, that's cool. Okay, the other one on here talking about smoking. As I mentioned on there, what smoking does with cholesterol levels, it lowers the good one. So the suggestion is to avoid it, but that's easier said than done, and there's definitely help with that. Ronnie King at Healthworks, he does classes for that, and Western Baptist does too. So if you're thinking about considering quitting, if you do smoke, give him a call, and he'll say, come to my class, come to my group, or he might say, may check out Western Baptist. But in my opinion, I feel like that's something that needs some support with it. I've heard of people quitting cold turkey. I don't know how they did it, but they have done that before. I'm not that disciplined. I'll just go ahead and confess that to you. But I think that's why they do have support and programs for helping with that. All right, let's move on to the next slide on here. Limit dietary cholesterol less than 300 milligrams a day. And you may be thinking, what in the world? I don't know how to do that. All right, Tony, let me see your yellow paper again, if you don't mind. Thanks for being my helper today, by the way. On one side of the yellow paper and one side and 2 sides of the blue paper, there are some low cholesterol, low fat meal plans. Anywhere from, I shouldn't say anywhere from, but there's a 1,500 calorie, an 1,800 calorie, and a 2,000 calorie. So I just put a wide range of calorie recommendations on there, but they are low cholesterol, meeting that dietary guideline, less than 300 milligrams a day. So I just like to give that in case somebody, is wanting to take it serious and try to follow a low-fat, low-cholesterol meal plan. So those are on there for you. And we'll even put these on our website too, because if you need to take some home to your family, please do that. But they'll be on the website as well, that you can print those off. Okay, on here, I got 2 more slides and we'll be finished up here. Avoid organ meats. Oh, like gizzards and kidney and liver. Whew, they're really, really rich in cholesterol. I remember when I was little, that was something that my grandmother wanted us to do because it had a lot of vitamin A in it, and said you need to eat a lot of that. Well, as I guess we've gotten smarter, we have found that organ meats, though, are rich in cholesterol too. So they're not the food to eat anymore. Now, I think this is just my opinion. My grandmother grew up, and her husband, my grandfather, when they were growing up, they worked hard. They lived on a farm, and they worked hard. So they ate whatever was put on the plate for them. And my grandmother is in her 90s. My grandfather died of prostate cancer. But the point on what I'm making on here is that I feel that they worked hard, did a lot of laborious work. So when they did eat foods like that, it wasn't detrimental to them. I feel like, and again, this is just Tish's opinion, and I probably shouldn't be saying this, but Tish's opinion is, I think things are easier for our lifestyle nowadays. And we don't burn those foods off that are rich in calories and rich in cholesterol. We don't burn those off as much as we used to. And maybe that's why some of us have more trouble with that. But that's just an opinion, okay? That's just Tish's opinion. But I just remember, though, when I was a little growing up, my grandma would make that a lot. But anyway, so let me jump on to my next topic on here is using leaner meats. On the other side of this yellow handout, it gives you some choices on here of meats from beef all the way down to poultry. And it tells you some that are leaner than others. And I think that's helpful to know when you're going grocery shopping, if your wife does, or I don't know who does the cooking at home, but it helps you to know, well, is this kind of meat okay? Is this one a little bit leaner than another one? So that can kind of give you a little bit of an idea on that. The next slide on here talks about triglycerides. And this is my last slide on here. These foods are different versus cholesterol, because if you notice, the cholesterol foods were a lot had to do with meat, didn't it? Or something that came from an animal product like butter and milk and cheese. Those all come from an animal. That's where you're going to find cholesterol. It's only going to be in animal products. Well, let's flip over and look at triglycerides. Look what it says on here. Sugars and candy and chocolate and regular soda and fruit. What? I thought fruit was good for us. Alcohol? Yeah, those are the foods that make triglyceride levels go up. So I tell people when I'm doing classes or if I'm working with them one-on-one in the office, they come in and they have a triglyceride level of 200 or higher, whatever it is. And they tell me, I drink 3 beers every day after work. They don't do much fruit, but they drink a lot of Coke. So if I tell them, I'm Safety Sally, if I say, you can't have any more beer and you can't drink any more Coke, do you think they're going to follow that? No, I don't think they are either. As a dietitian, I guess what I've learned with experience, I like to work in baby steps. Because if I'm telling that person to do that, then I flip it around. Tony and I already talked about this. I like to talk and teach the way I want to be taught and taught to. So if Tony's telling me that, I'm already going to turn him off. There's no way I can stop drinking my beer and stop drinking my Coke. But if Tony says, well, if you do 3 beers a day, do you think maybe you could try 2? Yeah, that's a little bit more feasible. That's the suggestion that I tell anybody. If you're doing 3 a day, if you're doing five Cokes a day, try to cut down just on one of them. And then after about a week or 2, then maybe you can cut down on another one. And by golly, you're down to 4 a day. Whatever it is, Coke, M&Ms, beer, whatever it is. So just make baby steps to making changes with these foods that I'm talking about, that I'm saying avoid, don't eat. Yeah, I would like for you to do that, but I told you all I can't do things cold turkey. And I don't think many other people can either too. But just try to make small changes, and you'll be surprised. You might actually get there or get pretty close to it. And that's a lot healthier than what you were doing the day before. Does that kind of make sense? Okay. Any questions? No? All right. If you guys think of questions after this, y'all don't hesitate to ask, okay? I'm glad y'all came today. And it's the end of the day. You guys getting off work now? Pretty close to it? Woohoo! All right.